Oh, hello, Larissa. How are you?
Hi, thank you for that introduction. I'm like, oh, I want to meet that person. Are you talking about me? That's
Uh,
awesome. Thank
to
you.
to me, I felt like it was like kind of forecasting your future. Like I see that probably is going to be the beginning of your show one day on like TLC or something like that.
Wow. I hope so. Well, listen, I shouldn't say I hope so. It's whatever is planned, right? Whatever
Right.
spirit wants for us. Which is one of the things that I've had to learn on this journey, which I'm sure you have too, is that you may want something, but it may not be the best thing for you. So I kind of surrender to it and I just show up and I serve each day and I let spirit lead.
Awesome. So it's probably people don't know that how we know each other. So let's start by saying that you and I were partners in crime in college in Oneonta. Having a great time. And we were saying before we started recording this that we could have never guessed in a million years that
No,
those nights would have led to this a conversation like this.
no,
But yeah, I
not a
mean,
chance.
I guess that all plays into the whole probably the beginning of this conversation, which is just this was meant to be. Like it was meant to be for you, and it was meant to be for me and for Agris. And when we finally surrender to that, then things start to look different and different but familiar at the same time, right? Because I don't know if you had that same feeling, but the more I feel like I become the true version of myself, the more comfortable and familiar it feels, and like
Well,
different
I
from
always
that facade that you put on. So go ahead.
correct. Like I like to say, Larissa, before she was like spiritually awakened or personally developed, was a feisty firecracker who just
Mhm.
was, living in the ego, all about herself somewhat, and just kind of trying to get through life, reaching all these goals and making it to the quote unquote top or being the best. But even throughout that part of my life, I still was this very deep spiritual person. I've been this way my whole life. I
Uh-huh.
just didn't know the terms. I didn't know the words. I didn't know what it meant. I was the friend in the friend group that everybody came to. What do you think? What do you feel? Are you sensing anything?
Mhm.
But the rest of the world didn't know this. And I was just doing what the average teenager did or the average 20-year-old did. And it was important, though. I think every spiritual healer needs to be in that point in their life where they can just process and learn and kind of develop and grow, because who you are at 20 is not who you're going to be at 40. And I got to
Yeah.
say to you, if this would have came out and I would have found the strength to share my gifts publicly earlier in my life, I don't think I would have been responsible enough to handle what comes with it.
Wow.
People say, wow, you have such a big following. Yeah, but that comes with a lot of responsibility.
Mhm.
um, because I don't look at it as a following, I look at it as a community. And people are coming to me when they're in a time of need. And I
Right.
take that very seriously. And I didn't have enough life experience to support them or help them or be a guide to them. And it took all these years to get to this point. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Absolutely. That's powerful. I mean, yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I feel exactly the same way. Yesterday, I actually had the same thought, which was just like, even with my coaching clients, like, wow, it takes so much. Like, there's first of all, there's so many freaking people doing what we do now. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
literally anybody with an iPhone can open up like a YouTube channel, an Instagram page, a Facebook page, or whatever. They could read a bunch of books, they could absorb a bunch of knowledge, they could start spitting stuff out, and somebody somewhere will listen, right?
Yes.
Um, but
Absolutely.
but I was thinking, like, so how does somebody know who's legit and who's not legit? Like, how do we know
Oh,
that
that's a
someone's
good question.
yeah.
That is a good question. Well, so I think if you are someone who is starting your spiritual journey and you're awakening and you're finding all of us, right? You are developing your own intuition.
Mhm.
And I think the goal is to really see before you purchase, before you buy, before you really listen to what these healers are saying, that you feel that connection, that you see that they're authentic, that you understand that they're really here to serve. And I think social media is a beautiful thing because, there are videos that I could put out that I know will go viral in a minute. Like
Mhm.
they're just like my one hit wonders. Like I know it's going to work. But then the videos that actually show up, serve, and support, I'm not looking to go viral. I'm
Mm.
looking to let people into my life so that they can see this is Larissa 24/7.
Mhm.
However, I think part of the flaws of some of these spiritual healers is that they only show the good stuff.
Mm.
And we're human beings having a spiritual experience. So we struggle, we have obstacles, we have pain, we have bad days. And I think a good healer shows it all.
Mhm.
That's just my opinion.
I agree, right, Agris? Like that's what our whole podcast is about. Like just if the other day we were having an issue right before we started recording and we were just about to talk it out and we were like, "Oh, we're going to talk this out." And he was like, "No, we're going to hit
No.
record. We're going to hit record and then we're going to talk it out because we're not pretending. Like this is
Right.
real life." Right, Agris? Like that talking about the
Yeah,
empty day.
yeah, 100%. We have those days, and I think we have to show that we are human beings, right? But behind that 24/7 coach person who serves is a
Mhm.
real life. That you have 3 kids,
Right.
Yeah.
husband, two
Yes.
two labradoodles, right?
Yes, and I always say like I'm a New Yorker, I'm feisty, I curse, I have a little bit of a temper, that
Uh-huh.
Aries in me. But the what makes me different, I guess, is that I have to learn to control it. I have better tools in the tool belt to help me get through my weaker energies. And I think the biggest red flag for healers is when that healer takes on the ego identity of I
Mhm.
I am telling you what to do. This is what you need to do. I believe it is not our job to ever tell someone what to do. It is our job to give them a plethora of information and
Uh-huh.
choices and knowledge and inspire them to make their own decisions that align to their best, outcome. I'm not doing this work. It's coming through me. We are channels. We turned our light bulbs on and we said, we're here. Let us
Mhm.
be the messenger. So if you see someone on social media and they said, oh, this is going to happen or that's going to happen, or I would run for the hills because
Mhm.
they're not ethical. They're not doing it right.
Right.
I,
Yeah,
I
I'm
think, yeah, if I can add, I think we spoke about this with Mark as well, that like there are so many those so-called spiritual leaders who literally pretend, right? Who takes who wants to take the authority for others, who wants to come out as just only one authority and
Mhm.
take away that authority for people who
Mhm.
actually deserve to be in their own authority. We
Right.
are just the channels and messengers, just to connect with them, to tell what we receive so they can reflect on that
Mhm.
and decide what they want to do with that. So, but my question is actually to Larissa, to you, what is your toolbox of getting yourself centered in your self-authority? What is your toolbox? How you approach
So,
those challenges?
that's a good question. So here, I'll tell you what I've done wrong, actually, too. But what I think was interesting is when I started this journey and I realized that these gifts, because I've had certain experience in my life where I could not ignore my intuitive abilities, where I would just know things, and it was like at the point in my life where I'm like, okay, this is not just coincidence here. So I really started to take on this road of development. And I believe my greatest strength, or I guess my desire, is that I study spirituality at least 5 days a week for minimum of 20 to 30 minutes a day, where I'm learning, reading, acquiring knowledge for myself, because I'm not ever going to stop learning. I am spiritually growing always. So that's number one. Number two, when I started this journey you can go down this spiritual rabbit hole.
Mhm.
Reiki, astrology, numerology, moonology, crystallology, and you don't know whether to look left, right. You're like, I don't know what to do, you know.
Right.
Now, I realized that you could have knowledge in a lot of things, but that
Mhm.
does not give you the right to be the expert in that.
Mm.
So, numerology is my passion. Numerology is something I'm obsessed with and have been my whole life. So, that is where I start in my healings and readings and teachings as a channel. That's my base. That is the base of my tool belt. Every reading has a numerology base, and then I let spirit lead. I love oracle cards, although I love tarot as well. Oracle is the way that I interpret messages and I communicate. Do I need them? No, but I freaking love them.
Mhm.
And I love when I'm telling somebody and then I pull a card and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's spot on. Like, it's just
Right.
my own confirmation. So
Mhm.
those are like my two main things, as well as meditation and channeling. I was never really good at grounding myself. I was never really good at meditation. And I had to learn my own way of settling down my energy, opening myself up, spiritually protecting myself, and then proceeding with the readings, because I left myself open a lot of times and it got me very sick.
Mm. Like, meaning you're empathic and you would pick up on like their energy and then absorb it as your own, and then it would have to deal with the consequences of that.
Somewhat, yes. But it's like you can't work 24/7. You can't be
Mm.
spiritually open 24/7, because if you
Right.
are, then you're subject to all sorts of energies and things.
That's
But
true.
I think what was my biggest lesson over the last year was
Mhm.
that I have to do my prep work, but I also have to do my clearing work at the end of each session,
Right.
because I was just moving so fast and I got completely burnt out, spiritually
Mm.
burnt, to the point where it was stopping me from being able to connect with my guides.
Mm.
So I lost sight of my daily spiritual routines and habits, because I got to a point where I was like, oh, I got this.
Uh-huh.
I don't need to do what I needed to do to get here.
Right.
But I think that's a misconception, because what happens is you do all these spiritual rituals or practices, and then you get to a point and you think you're good, but you need to continue those practices so that you can maintain it, is
Right.
what I feel.
Right.
So every morning I connect for the first hour. I hope this answers your question. For the first hour of my morning, don't talk to me, don't look at me. I'm not checking my emails, I'm not checking my social media, which was a problem because it was very tempting when you're
Mhm.
getting, viral hits and notifications. You want to go on that phone and be like, "Oh, look at this, look at this." But that hour was mine. And that is when I listen to some type of spiritual development. Then I do my automatic writing, and then I pull a card for myself. So
Mhm.
before anybody else gets Larissa, I give myself and my guides that connection.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
that's huge.
can we call it self-recognition session?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you, if you are trying to connect to somebody else's guides and bring them messages, how can you do that if you haven't even connected to your own? And I ask my guides to allow me to be a messenger of the day, to, as I go forth in my readings, to be a messenger of the light so that they could walk away with more love and insight on what to do next. If I skip that part, it's kind of sloppy. It's like spiritual sloppiness.
Yeah. Agris and I met because we have the same mentor. I don't know if I told you that. And one of the things that she told us was that, this spirituality can get confusing, right? When you choose this for work, because spirituality means you're in service to others, and we all get that. But where it gets confusing and where we get burnt out is that we think that that means that's now our identity, and we need to be open 24/7 in whatever capacity that means. That means when your neighbor comes over and they need a hand, when your friend texts you because they need advice, when your kid needs you to take their lunch to school, when like somebody like doesn't understand their numerology chart and they need you to like, and that we get burnt out, we get overwhelmed. And then what, like you said, what we set up in the beginning just gets kicked offline, and then we're not
Yeah.
even, and then everything suffers as a result. So one of the things that she taught us was like exactly to your point, that you decide when you're open for business. Like you decide how much time you need. Like if for you it's that hour in the morning, for some people that might be 4 hours, for some people it
Yeah.
might be 30 minutes. It really depends on where you are, right? And then I like that you added what you do afterwards, because that's just as important as what you do before, right? Because it's like it's a process of you getting into that like mind frame, or that like flow, whatever you want to call it, and then getting out of it. Because let's face it, when you're done like with your work, and then your kids come home, from school, like you're not like intuitive astrologist Larissa, your mom,
No,
who,
I'm mom.
who needs to service them their needs, and deal with their bad days,
Feed
and drive
them.
to soccer practice and feed them. Yeah, exalt. So it sounds like you have developed your own way of like running your business, which is
But
a
I had to learn the hard way.
right,
Okay.
right.
And when you say get out, it
Hmm.
can be something so simple
Hmm.
as saying thank you.
Mm,
That is it. Like when I click that Zoom off, I just hold space for the call. I feel that exhilaration of like success and accomplishing the goal of my client. I feel so, what's the word I'm looking for? Honored to be a
mm,
part of it. And then I just kind of sit there and I thank my guides for keeping me on point, or allowing me to be this open channel.
right.
Because so many times we want to impose our will, so many times we want to say what we think we should say instead of saying what we should feel, and
Hmm.
what we're hearing. And that's another thing that's taken a lot of time. Like, should I say this? Is she going to think I'm crazy? Like,
Yeah.
and I don't second guess myself anymore.
Mm,
Whatever I sense, whatever I feel, I know it's coming to me for them, and I just drop it. It's up to you to interpret it. I'm
mhm.
not here to tell you to quit your job. I'm not here to tell you to get divorced. I'm here to tell you what the energy is, what your guides are saying, and here are the outcomes if you do this, this, and this. Now
Mhm.
make your decision. And I had to learn the hard way too, because I put myself on social media. People see this. And it's interesting, right? It's exciting. Oh, you could read people and the numbers and the birthdays. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget my husband. We were at like a party, and I was being bombarded like a party trick, like a party
Mm,
trick. Like,
right,
tell me something about my future. Like they're testing me, or
right.
what's the month gonna bring? And my husband, you know, when we left, he's like, Larissa, he's like, you're not a party trick. If they
Mm,
want a session, you are a professional. You
mhm.
should not, one, be drinking and guiding. That's number one. Like, don't have a
Uh-huh.
cocktail and give anybody advice.
Spirits with spirits. What do you mean?
Exactly. He's like, I'm going to get you a shirt that says, I don't drink and guide, which I think is hysterical.
Oh, you need to trademark that
Yeah.
immediately. Okay, go.
And he was like, what you do is very helpful. And he's like, you're only cheapening yourself, and you're only
Mm,
cheapening the person receiving the messages.
right,
And I was like, wow, he's absolutely right. So
right.
this is what I'll say if someone approaches me out in public. I'll say, well, your birthday can reveal a lot about you. And I might say, like, oh, based upon your birth date, I can tell you're this type of person. But to do an in-depth reading, feel free to check out my site or just message me on Instagram, and we can set a time up where it's more appropriate to have this conversation.
Right,
Because I'm not doing that anymore.
right.
I don't have to
Yours.
prove myself to anybody.
I
Well,
like your boundaries. That's what we call boundaries, right? It's just
Yeah.
set your boundaries, and also set your value for doing
mhm,
this, because it's a work.
Yeah.
Because I can relate this everything to myself as well, because I'm a big fan of numerology. I've been studying it myself, and also other things, but then once you start to study it, then you're like so excited, you want to share with people, right? Oh, this is that, this is this. And then you're so excited that you start to just to give it, as you said, you started probably with a community of people, and you just been giving it like this, right?
mhm.
Just because you were so in that mood of sharing your new knowledge, right? This is, but
sorry.
yeah, I wanted to lead this observation into question, but I will let you answer what you wanted to answer to this.
Good. No, ask.
Okay. My question actually is like, because you are intuitive numerologist, right? And these days, it's not only knowing numerology, it's also how you intuitively express it, right? It's just it's a big, huge thing. I think it's just where we add that value, quality, and real message to it. Because obviously, yeah, we know now Earth is on this number, but what do you feel within?
Correct.
What does it mean for the planet Earth right now?
So it's interesting that you say that, because nowadays social media is wonderful. You can Google anything. We have AI that can answer all of your questions.
Mhm.
And I'll see a lot of people on social media, not discrediting them at all, but they're just regurgitating what Google is saying that number means, or what that angel number is. They are not reading the numbers. They're not blending them. They're not interpreting them. They're not listening. So when I am working with someone, I call it a soul profile. You have many numbers in your chart. My charts could be 50, 60 pages, but I like to keep it at a, sometimes too much information is no good, right?
Right.
It's overload. So I use what I call the core 5 numbers of someone's soul numeric profile. And what I'm looking for is not only the numbers that are there, but the numbers that are missing, the lessons, the repetitiveness. Like sometimes the numbers will repeat in different spots of their charts, and that actually carries more weight than their so-called life path. So in order to be really in order to benefit from a true numerology reading, you need to be with someone who is interpreting, hearing, allowing their psychic development to kind of blend what's in front of them to tell this beautiful story. I like to say it's creating a blueprint of their soul, so that they have, because I am very big on my clients walking away with strategies for success. So what's good for Mark may be very different for you according to your numbers. He thinks a certain way, you think a certain way, even according to your relationships. You receive love differently. You want to give love differently. And this is really important, that we have a full understanding of who we are, so that we can really make the best decisions. It's not, oh, I'm a 1, because you could be a 1 and I could be a 1, but I have 5 other numbers that are so unique to me that come from my name. So the way I do my charts are, you have 6 numbers because I do the forecasting year. 3 numbers are coming from your birth date and 3 are coming from your name, which makes it very unique. Like my husband is an identical twin. Their charts are nothing the same other than their life path and their personal year. Everything else is different.
Mm.
Did I answer your question?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, for sure. For sure, because like I know many people like, oh, like, so when I was giving numerology, and many people came to me and they said, oh, so you want to tell that there is like at the same day when I came to this earth as a human being, there probably was 1 million other human beings coming on the same day. And so we are the same? Like, no, you're not the same.
Right, right.
Because and you know what? I get that question a lot. Yeah. So I said, how many Larissa Jean Mirandas are walking around this world? Because I use your birth name. You want to use your married name or a nickname, that's a subcategory, that's a sub lesson, but everything stems from the way your soul decided to show up. So I don't care if you were called baby girl, that's the name we're going off of because it's on your birth certificate.
Wow.
Yeah. But what's happening when you get married and you change your last name?
So
that's
okay, so
actually changed lots of things, right?
Well, yes and no. So remember, some of your numbers are from your birth date, so that's never going to change. Now, it's really interesting because my maiden name is Larissa Jean Miranda. My married name is Larissa Jean Martincic. Okay. So Larissa Jean Miranda is my soul's entrance to this world. And these are all my main categories. Like a teacher, this would be your themes, your lessons. And then the Martincic married name is my sub lessons. So and here's what's interesting. Some people, even though they change their names, their numbers don't change. So if your numbers actually do change when you take on a married name, it's because you chose to learn more lessons. It's very interesting. We don't get rid of that birth name because that is your identity. What you take on after you're here only adds to your mission, your purpose, and your challenges and obstacles.
I love your passion. When you start to talk about numbers, right? I can feel
am
it.
very passionate about it.
Awesome.
Actually, my husband says I'm really boring because all I talk about is Tik-Tok and numerology. So he's like, I've had enough, but it just makes sense to me. It really does. Like, I respect what you do, and I value what you put into the world because you're sharing your gifts, right? You're sharing your tools that are unique to you. And I'm not saying I'm the first numerologist, and I'm not saying I'm the last, but I'm the only Larissa that does it. So it
Right.
is unique to me.
So something that you said was really interesting, if you want to dive a little deeper on this, because so I think what I heard you saying is that we have these numbers and they pretty much say, like, this is kind of the path I'm going to be on, right? Like, these are my
Correct.
strengths, right? These are my strengths and maybe even my weaknesses. And so I wonder how this plays into the whole idea of like, and I'll give you the backstory. So Agris is very familiar with human design, which I'm sure you know what human design is, right? So he was the first one that introduced human design to me, and I had no idea what it was. And I was fascinated because I was like, wow, a lot of this stuff makes sense. I could see this. And also the stuff that I didn't see in myself also made sense. Like, I'm not just trying to make this fit. I really see how this could fit, right? But I also feel like the interesting thing is, and you said before, like, it's not just your numbers, it's the numbers that are missing, right? And let me tell you how I translated that, and tell me if you think I'm on point or not with that. It's not what you see when you deal with Mark Jabus when you're having this conversation. It's what you don't see. You know what I mean? Like, it's the stuff, it's my shadow side. It's the stuff I don't want you to see. And that's the shit that shows up in my situations and my relationships and all of my experiences, right? So, and it's like, what I've learned more recently is that until I've recognized that those parts of me actually exist, because I've been repressing them for so long, those parts of me were not in like agreement with the part of myself I wanted to display to the world. So I was pushing them down for so long until recently, when I realized that I need to acknowledge those parts, I need to shine a spotlight on them, and I need to integrate them into my life. Then, oh my God, a new version of me was born.
Because you become whole.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Right. So my whole, I guess, question for you is that kind of along the lines of what you're talking about? It's like, it's not just all the things that are great about you, it's the numbers that are missing, the parts of you that also need to be paid attention to.
Yes. So, I look at a chart and I see it in many different ways. So, for example, I just had a reading and this woman had only 3 numbers in her chart. And that is when it's more of a struggle for that person because they can't avoid the lessons of these numbers. There's nothing else to like bounce
Distract
off of.
them.
It's
Right.
to distract them, right? So when I was working with her, she was very frustrated. We knew what she was, but then we talked about what she wasn't.
Mhm.
And I taught her what those numbers represent and how she can implement these other energies into her life. So it kind of calms down this intensity of the numbers that she carries and
Mhm.
that energy, because we are all things, you know, astrology, numerology, human design. They are, in my opinion, the three most complementary services anyone can get, because human design and numerology, they are like sisters. They are just amazing together. And we could
Mhm.
have conversations about that, because I am not a human design expert or an astrologer, but I see, like, it's almost like with the numbers that are missing, I'm handing you the baton and saying, okay, this is what you are. Now let's go see if human design can open up the other pieces. Now let's see if an astrology chart can, you know, we could talk about your north node and
Mhm.
get this beautiful story. Because you're all the things. You are not just the strengths. You are not just the weaknesses. You have numbers that keep you in a line, and you have energy that keeps you out of alignment. So I try to teach my clients the triggers. When
Mhm.
you do this, when you're sensing this, when you're acting like this, you are going down to the low level, because in numerology, there's duality, which is a whole nother conversation, because some people don't believe in duality, but in numerology, there is.
Listen, it's so easy to prove duality, right?
Correct.
Because this is
Correct.
where we start to really associate ourselves from, because we always want to put ourselves in some sort of bracket, right? Just I belong to this, belong to that, and not to this. So that's duality if we think from that perspective. But I really loved your point about that there are missing numbers. So actually that's your empathy, that's your wisdom, right? That's where you
Correct.
gain
So
your wisdom, where you learn that wisdom.
in my
Mm.
chart, I don't have any nines. Okay. So that's, I'm just going to use myself as an
Mhm.
example. The nines are the compassionate humanitarians. They're also strong leaders. They're very self-driven. They work with government. They work with big policy. They work with, you know, the legalities, the courts.
Mhm.
And I have zero interest in that.
Mm.
Zero. If I never have to know anything about politics or the world, but I have to challenge myself to understand that energy and bring that into my world, because
Mm.
it's missing. I have a responsibility to bring that in. It's
Mm.
not a part of me, but it's important.
Wow.
That's your life lesson, correct? This is what you actually have to learn, how to handle
Well,
this. No?
well, your life. So for example, I'm a life path of a one. One of my life lessons, usually each life path comes with about 5 or 6, maybe even a little bit more life lessons that you must master. One of mine is my ego, my sensitivity, my temperament, and turning my anger into being more assertive, because the ones can be very, very volatile, like they can explode, and they deal with anger. And it's also about dealing with imposter syndrome and understanding that the one's life lesson and mission is to create an original path, that you have to stop comparing yourself to other people, because you are the original creator, the independent soul who's meant to walk alone for a little bit, which can be
Mhm.
isolating, which can be self-sabotaging. The
Mm.
nines have to learn to not only raise humanity and be here for the collective and the higher consciousness and the, you know, making this planet better. The nines have a little bit of every single person within them. It's like
Mm.
almost like they have such empathy and compassion, but they don't process what's theirs versus other people, and they don't forgive, and they don't let go, and they don't move on, because they want to fight all the wrongs of the world. They
Mhm.
want to make it better for everyone, and one of their missions in life is to make their lives better first.
Mm.
So, you know, would you, are you resonating with that?
I mean, you're blowing me away, because I realize that you're not you're using numbers to study humanity, and that's the difference. And that's what you brought to this
Oh,
conversation,
wow.
because Agris uses his tools, I use my tools, you're using your tools, but nonstop, all we think about, it's not just spirituality, it's understanding people, like
Right.
understanding the human experience, understanding spirit's role in the human experience, why we're here, what we're capable of, like what our blocks are, like all of that. And you
Well,
just go ahead.
no, one of the things I'm studying right now is when you're not resonating with your life path. Why?
Right.
Because I'm telling people their potential. They're like, that's not me. That's not me. Let's just say.
Exactly.
So why?
Right.
We gotta get down to it.
Right.
And I want to know why you're not. So
Right.
I'm flipping it, I think, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, 100%. And you know that, so you've been doing this a while and you're starting to notice patterns, right? You notice patterns between like the numbers, right? Okay, so this number means this and this number means that. And so you can tell a person and you're starting to match those patterns, connect the dots. Like, and after a while, you do this long enough, you know, this person is going to behave like this in this kind of a situation because I know their makeup, like I know their
Yeah.
numerological, sorry if I'm saying that wrong,
It's
makeup.
okay.
And so people become predictable to you in a way, right? And so
Yes.
so what I'm saying is that validates that this stuff is, there's a truth behind it, right? So it gives you the energy, the power, the passion, the excitement to keep moving forward with this. If it didn't, you would have already been onto something else by now. But this is
Correct.
obvious thing.
No,
And
this
so,
isn't going anywhere.
right. So the one thing I want to say is that the interesting thing is that, and you're probably realizing this, and I want to get your take on it, is that when you deliver this news to people, right? Like, here are your numbers, this is who you are, this is your makeup, whatever, and they're not accepting it, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I have two choices. I could just say, okay, you want to be stubborn, like have a good life, you know what I mean? And then go to your next client. Or you could say, do you want to dive deeper with this? And we can maybe have a discussion on why you're not open to receiving some of this information. And then there becomes the cultivation of a whole new skill
Another
for
comment.
Larissa. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's
Well,
where
what I
you're
do is I'll tell them the lower level energies and I'll start identifying it. And they go, that's me. I go, is that where you want to be? Because everything I said for the first half an hour was your true potential.
right.
And everything that we're saying now is you living on a lower field, a lower
Right.
energy plane. Do you feel good about that?
Right.
And they're like, no. So then I sit there and I say, okay, let's dive deeper into how to get from here to there, how
Right.
to raise that, because it's a part of you. And the example I use is simple. I always take a pen and I say, okay, if I tell you that the ones are creative, they are independent leaders, but then on the other side, they are self-sabotaging, imposter syndrome, and they lack confidence. It's the same energy. It just decides where you want to hold the damn energy, the pen. Are you holding it on this side, or do you want to flip it and hold it to this side? And I try to make it so that it's their choice. I want my clients to take full responsibility for what they're feeling, what they're living, but I want them to be empowered to know that at any given moment, they can do this. They can go lower, they can go higher, that the potential is within them.
Right.
And I always say, how do I know? How do I know your best? How do I know your worst? And they're like, you're so right, you know? So it's very eye-opening. And it's funny that you say this about the numbers. So I tease my children. Now I'm going to say this. I don't really mean it. I don't have a bad number or a good number. Okay. Every number has a blessing and every number has its, its challenges. But I always tell my kids, I don't care who you marry. I don't care what you do in life. Just, it better be a 6. And then we kind of joke about it, and they're like, my mom doesn't care who I marry. As long as it's not this, this, or this, it has to be a 6. And we tease, because I know that the 6 has the potential to be one of the most loyal, loving partners. So that's what a mother would want for her children.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that somebody who's a 4 or a 5 doesn't have a 6 in their chart or can't be a match,
Right. Or and to take it a step further, maybe that they need to meet a 4 for a little while to like be triggered inside them, parts of themselves that need to be healed.
Correct.
And then get to the 6 or something like that. So that's why I know you're saying it in jest, right?
I'm joking. And my husband is a life path of a 6 and I'm a life path of a 1. And if we looked at those two numbers alone, we're not really a match, because the 1, the 5, and the 7 are a natural match. The 3, 6, and 9 are a natural match, and the 2, 4, and 8. So my husband and I are kind of opposing. He's more of a, a entrepreneur, leader, and so am I. So there's ways where you can make these numbers work. But when I do his chart and I do my chart and I compare them, we actually have more numbers that are in common throughout our chart. It's just that our life path is not. Like, he actually has, I have a 33-6 in my chart, which makes me a master in that energy of the 6. So there you go. There goes that 6 connection. So it's really important that when you're getting a reading from a numerologist, you cannot look at one number. Now, on TikTok, on social media, I have to present myself in a way that is general to everybody.
Right.
I say astrology, everybody knows what the heck I'm talking about. If I say life path or numerology or human design, they're like, what is that? I don't know how to do that. So the one thing for me that resonates with my followers is the birth date number. So I do a lot of fun videos about the birth date. But I get some people like, that's not me, wrong. And I'm like, oh no, it is you. It's a part of you. But there's a bigger picture, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to teach this in a 15-second video, for God's sakes.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I totally resonate with that. I've had so many things where I'll do like the intuitive work that I do. And I know just the same way, that, okay, I know it came through. I know it wasn't me. I know it was valid. I know it's true. There's no doubt. And then you deliver the information and it's like, nope, that's not me at all. And I say this and I stick to my guns. I'm like, all right, put that reading in a drawer. 5 years later, read it and let me know what you think. Because just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will never tell someone what to do. However, if I have a client who's in a personal year 6, and I will always tell my clients, this is not intuitive. This is just like a responsibility professionally. If you are in a personal calendar year of a 6, that is the year that the house needs repair. And this is our house where our soul lives. And I will tell all my clients in a year 6, you must get a checkup. Do not skip your doctor's appointment, skin, eyes, mammogram, whatever it may be, because the body is being redesigned. And I feel that it's my responsibility to make them go seek the professionals to make sure that they're okay, that if there's any hiccups, that they'll be addressed. So that's one thing I do. And then in the 9 year, my other thing that I will say to every person in a personal 9 year is, do not buy anything of value because it is a closing year. It's the end of a karmic cycle. It's the end of a 9 year period, because everything moves from 1 to 9 unless it's a master. And the reason why I say don't start something new, because it's the opposite energy of what you're supposed to be doing. You are supposed to be finishing. You are supposed to be releasing and healing and closing. So let's say you want to buy a house in a 9 year. I don't advise it. That's a red flag for me. However, I will say this: if you choose to buy this house, you can, but be prepared. It may not go as smooth as you want, and that it will not last in your life, which means within 3 years, that house will be gone. Either you will be moving, it'll be sold, or you'll just be giving it away. I don't know. But it does not have longevity. It can't, because it's in an ending year. So those are the only 2 things that I would say a routine when someone comes to me. Other than that, I can't even, and I don't even remember my conversations because it's all channeled. Yeah.
I was going to say, you are. Exactly.
Which is so funny because sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
First of all, thanks for reminding me, what does it mean 9, right? Because I am 9, Yes. I felt like you're reading, channeling for me that about number 9. But second, my question is, okay, there is this individual number, right? It's the individual chart, but then planet Earth, it has own numerology as well, right?
Universal
and it affects
energy.
all, universal energy that affect whole universe and whole everyone living beings on it. And do you want
the year 2023 is a universal year of a 7. Okay. That governs all of us. We're all under this year 7. And then we have our personal energy. We have our personal month energy. We have our personal day energy. We have universal month energy, and we have universal day energy. So when I do a reading, I'm always taking into account that 7, because it's like the big cheese. It's here. Okay. So if you're in a personal year 7 and you have a universal year 7, that's double 7s. And the 7 for everybody, yeah, that's here. So if you'd like, I can share a little bit for your listeners of what they can expect for the universal year.
Do it.
Yeah. Okay. So the universal year 7, the way that we get this is we add the 2023 year to a single digit. Excuse me. And it comes down to a 7. And the 7 is the intuitive. The 7 is the spiritual seeker. I like to call it like the midlife crisis year, or like the midlife awakening, whichever
Right.
you choose.
I think
I
people
choose.
feel that. Yep.
Yeah, I think they feel it, where you've been working hard. If I want you to take the words and put it in front of everything. Reevaluation, reorganizing, rethinking, regrouping, rejuvenating, resting. It's a rebirth, because you are going within. So it's a year of isolation. You may not want to go to the parties. You may not want to be around people, because you're trying to reprocess who you are. Because all of a sudden, those things that you thought were important really don't mean shit to you. And you want a whole new, different way of being and thinking. And it is a year of psychic development. Whatever you want to do with that, that's up to you. But you are open to growing spiritually. And I think the entire planet is feeling that. And the other thing that the 7 brings is the seeker of truth. It's a great year to study something, take that class, take that course, go back to school, learn a new hobby, because it's a personal year of reflection within of what brings you happiness. Now, whatever you do in the year 7, whatever you master, because it's asking you to kind of take on this new energy, this new wisdom, so that you could be a teacher and kind of be an expert, will have a financial gain in 2024.
That's amazing. You were just giving me
Unbelievable.
chills, right, Agnes?
Oh yeah, because it's funny that I am aligned with the planet Earth, my personal as well. And I feel it double. I literally feel it. And I even feel, and I'm life path 9, right? So I even more feel it, everything, what's happening in the financial systems, government, like that's everything resonates to me and comes back to me. And that's amazing how you explain how this number 7 is important for all planet Earth. This
Correct.
is it's incredible year of growth within. And
correct. And you don't have to be a psychic or a
yeah,
professional healer to take advantage of this knowledge, because let's just say you are a teacher, or maybe this is the year that you're going to go for your master's degree, or maybe if you are a stay-at-home mother or parent, this is the year that you are going to kind of protect your people. It's kind of making your world smaller and really understanding how you affect people and how your energy can uplift, inspire, teach, and heal. So it's about making your world stronger, so that you can be there for your friends and family. Now, are you said that you're a 9, and I love it, because I can totally see you being a 9. But do you see auras? Were you thinking of studying auras and aura readings?
I see whole lots of things,
Like colors and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean,
Dad,
I
bring it.
become universe, I become creator. I felt how it feels to be universe and creator, and how we are creator of ourselves, and
But do you
all
have an
those
interest
things.
in auras?
Yeah, I mean,
Because they're telling me
like,
you should learn auras. You see color
yeah,
energy.
I see everything in colors, to be honest, and I like to meditate to the sun. And once I meditate to the sun in the mornings, all the sky, everything becomes so intense, beautifully colors, and everything is just like orange, purple, everything is just becomes, the whole universe becomes those beautiful colors. And once I stop meditating to the sun, I turn around and I see everything from eyes of sun.
Wow.
And that's the feeling of abundance.
Well,
How you
maybe I can
actually
inspire you to be a teacher of this, because that doesn't happen to me. And I didn't just pull that out of thin air. I heard that on you. So run with that. Mark, do you see colors?
Thank you.
I mean,
No.
I see
Okay.
all sorts of, I hear things and know
I
things,
hear
but
it.
no, I'm not
Yeah.
the color person.
No,
And
I'm not the color person either. Maybe Oneonta did some damage on us.
oh yeah, you never know. Oh, that's a whole nother topic we need to talk about next time.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
seriously. But listen, you said so many amazing things. That last part that you put in was like sending chills up and down. It's completely relevant to everything that's going on in my personal life, and also for my clients and for friends and family. Everyone, this is the year of everyone reaching out to me like, that thing that you're talking about, what is that thing all about? Where can I learn
Yeah.
about that? And it was really the birth and the inception for this podcast was that what Agris and I met, and we started getting together and exploring these conversations, spirituality, empowerment. And like, for the first time in my own life, I realized, you know what? This is the time for me to develop my own personal philosophy. I've been reading everybody else's for the past, 40 something years, and that's been wonderful. But now I really want to understand myself, like I
Correct.
really, and part of that is, like I said before, exposing those parts of me that I didn't want to for so long, but that's a necessary like aspect of knowing ourselves, so I I'm right there with everything that you just said.
Which is interesting because I feel like the universe is awakening,
Mhm.
and everybody's awakening at their own point.
Right.
Someone might be on chapter 1 and someone might be on chapter 100. So
Uh-huh.
as these people are awakening, it's not our job, or this is one of my philosophies. It's not
Mhm.
my job to awaken you, but it is my job to be the best Larissa that I could possibly be as an educator and a guide, so that when you awaken and if you need me, I am here. And I think more people like you and all of us need to stand up and really put ourselves out there, because as these souls awaken, they need ethical, authentic healers to guide them. They're
Mhm.
like being reborn. They're like little babies who
Right.
need guidance.
Right.
So, you know, I say, am I really doing enough? Am I showing up enough? Am I knowledgeable enough? So that's the kind of pressure I put on myself. And we
Mhm.
talk about those shadows that we don't want to see. People think I am the most confident person, and I am extremely insecure.
Mhm.
They can't believe it when I tell them, like, what, you go live all the time? I am like a teddy bear. I am a ball of mush, and I can cry at any point. And I fight these battles of
Mm.
insecurity and imposter syndrome. And I hope that the listeners can be inspired that even through our setbacks and challenges, we still push ahead. I'm not perfect. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to try. And I'll never forget the first time I went live. This was years. People see me on TikTok now, but this journey started in 2015, 2013. I was literally trembling,
Mm.
shaking. I'm so stupid. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm too old. I sound like an idiot. I say coffee and water and dog, and I sound like I have this horrible accent from New York. People are going to make fun of me. What will people think? And I read this book that changed my life. And it really wasn't spiritual. It was more about personal development. So I don't know if you've read it, but it's Mel Robbins, The 5 Second Rule.
Uh-huh.
It's
I
a,
know
it's
it,
a
but I
fun,
haven't read it. Okay, go
okay.
ahead.
It's a phenomenal book.
Uh-huh.
Because sometimes we have to break away from spiritual books. We need some
Oh,
other books,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So the 5 second rule changed my life because I used her teachings to hit that button.
Mm.
And I did it. When the live was over, I literally almost vomited. Okay. I made a post and I said, this is my passion. This is what I love. If anybody wants to know about numerology. And I got 5 clients that said
Uh-huh.
yes. And that grew into this.
Mm.
In 2020, I had 0 followers, 0 clients, 0 customers. And I was led to TikTok. I didn't just join TikTok. It was being told to me. And when I joined, my daughter at the time was a freshman in high school or sophomore in high school. She was devastated. She was like, "You're too weird. I don't want my friends finding you. Stay on the Facebook with the old people." Like it was, we were fighting.
Oh,
And
that's
I was
amazing.
like, "Listen, I have to do this." I said, "I don't know why." I said, "But I have to do this. And I'm not going to do your little dances. I promise. Like you could block me."
Uh-huh.
And I hit that button. And oh my God, I look at those videos and they're terrible. But within 26 days, I went from 0 followers to 52,000 followers.
Mm.
When you are aligned, you can't get it wrong.
Right,
But when you are out of alignment, goddamn, you can't get it right.
right.
Like you
Oh
can't.
my God.
So TikTok for me was my alignment. I'm not telling you to do TikTok. You have to find your alignment. But when it's all spirit led and it's aligned, it's magic. And here I am 3 years later with 700 something thousand followers all over the freaking world. And I keep telling my daughters, I'm like, I know I will hit 1 million followers.
Uh-huh.
It's done. We manifested that, right? I manifested that. But what I've learned in this 3-year journey, I think I should write a book because it was not all roses. It was hard. It wasn't easy. I learned a lot about myself, like you said before, to add what you spoke about is I learned some dark truths about myself. And I had to come to terms with that. I really did. So.
Amazing. Oh man.
Larissa, like I'm so appreciative and grateful for you to show your side, and that's all we can ask actually. And I think this is source podcast as well, that we want people to understand that you are not alone. We all have those insecurities, those shadow figures we dealing probably every day, and maybe we come out on social media because we have to show that character who wants to fight all this, right? We actually want to show to people how I overcoming this and how I can come out.
Right.
But on the other side probably is all you fight for that. So I'm so grateful. I have a question actually. You do oracle cards, right?
Correct. Yes.
So when we will come to the end of this episode, would you be able to
absolutely
pull card for this source?
Of course.
That would be amazing.
I love that. I love that. So
I'm using you now.
Well, I will go see, they're all right there. But one of the things that I love about oracle cards is, first of all, there will be people that say don't read the guidebook. But I like to feel the author's interpretation, but I usually don't read the guidebook, but I'll read it after, and I'm like, wow, she said exactly what I said. And it's kind of like this confirmation. But for me, oracle cards are like a painting. When you go to the museums and you see a beautiful painting, it speaks to you in a different way. And I could pull the same card every single day, and it's going to be different every single time, because it's about how I'm interpreting, how I'm feeling it, what I'm seeing, the senses, the colors, the energy. So to me, it's like I get to paint every single day. That's why I like it, because it gives me that freedom to kind of let spirit work through me. Tarot is a beautiful system, but I struggled with the rules of it in some ways. However, I do want to study tarot, but I think for me, I resonate with oracles, so that's where I stay.
Yeah, I do tarot myself.
Yeah,
I do it only for myself mainly, and actually all family members as well. Like, hey, can you do tarot for me? So I don't sell it as something I like.
So let me ask you a question, which you should put it in with your clients. Let me ask you a question. Why did you resonate with tarot versus oracle? Like, is there a reason, something that drew you to it? Because I'm curious, because I know I bought them both, right? But I felt so connected to the angel side of Oracle that's where I started.
Yeah. No, and it's a good question. And tarot for me, and I actually have also different those oracle cards as well, but somehow I just resonate to that classic tarot deck. And actually yesterday, and Mark can approve it, yesterday I had the day love esteem day, and we had conversation about this, and I felt stuck in what we do, and I lots of questions to myself, like we do every day almost, but yesterday was the day, and I think it was also eclipse of the sun or whatever, in the sky, and I pulled the tarot for that. So how this is going to, where I am now, and how this is going to like will lay out.
Let me get a deck. Let me get one. Hold on. Let's do this. Which one am I feeling?
And what is interesting, it gave me so perfect picture, everything, like where I'm now.
Every
And
single time, right?
And I sent it to Mark, and it's like, listen, look at this. Like there was this 10 of Wands who wants to carry too much, who has to do so much just to get through the things, but resolution was a star, and I was like, wow, thank you, you're guiding me to that.
When I was in my shadow, I kept pulling cards every day, and every day was stop, take a break, peace, walk away, and I was like, no. I kept ignoring it, and then I was laid up in bed, and I couldn't move because I was so sick.
Right.
So spirit will have its way with you if you don't listen.
Yeah, our egos are resistant, aren't they?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because this whole TikTok journey threw my one ego into a very high space, and I kept thinking that I would be successful when I reached a certain number, or that number added to the value that I brought to this world. Like, because of that number, then I must be good, or I must be successful.
Right.
Yeah. And then I started showing up for everybody else. I started showing up for the algorithm. And I'm going to be very honest with you. As I grew, my actual business declined because the energy it wasn't coming from the right place. So, but your girl is back. I am balanced. I am whole and good.
And you can tell, I can tell, I'm sure Agris and everyone else that's listening and paying attention can tell. And I think that, if you don't mind me saying this, it broke you in a good way, because you're so authentic. And that's really like the thing that I'm getting from this conversation is, I have a lot to learn, and we resonate on the same subjects, but also that this conversation could go on and on, like because the reason why is because I'm interested in everything that you have to say, because you're not a bullshit artist. You're just being yourself. And you're saying, look, I studied numerology for long enough to know that there's some legitimacy behind it, but I also actually give a shit about you. And that's why I realized that I need to show up in a certain way so that I can be helpful, right? Like you told me the last time we talked, like my goal is not to just pump out numbers all day long for people, like see how many like charts I can do or readings I can give. I want to go so much deeper, and I can tell, but that could never happen unless you first went deeper with yourself.
Yes, because I was pumping out charts and I was miserable,
right,
and I was broken, and it broke me. But the beautiful part of breaking is that you get to rebuild, and you get to look at your challenges and obstacles as opportunities for growth. So I learned a lot, and I value that lesson. I also lost my mother during that time. So I didn't allow myself to heal. I didn't allow myself to grieve. I kept like like the bull in the china shop, like kind of going through it. And spirit was like, no, you need to take a time out. Which is what the universal year 7 is. It's like a giant timeout for everybody. And the card that I pulled for us is Poised, which this card is so beautiful because it's everything that I wasn't. There's no rush. We're not in a race. You're never going to get it done. You can't ever get to a point on this journey where it's at completion and you're like, check, I did it. It's not a checklist. It's about moving through life with a certain amount of grace, a certain amount of empathy and compassion, and giving yourself grace through these challenges that you're feeling and dealing with, because they're real. It's not roses and rainbows. And I think it's really interesting because the 4 and the 8, the 4 is about building a better system for yourself to thrive. The 4 is about structure and discipline, and it's about balance. You ever go out to dinner and you sit at that table and the table's wobbly? I don't care if it's a 5-star meal, your meal is ruined because you keep leaning on it's all off, right?
Yeah.
So the 4 is coming in to say, it can't be all business. It can't be all money or all success. What about your health? What about your spirituality? What about your friendships and your passions and your hobbies? So you might be thriving in one area, but this card is saying you need to reflect on all the areas, because if your foundation is not okay, or there's a crack, you're not building a stable future. You're not building a legacy. And the 8 is about being a leader in the sense of your finances and your money and your mission and how you want to work in this world. Like, what do you want to produce? What do you want to give? You will get the money, because the poise card is there is no rush. Everything is working out for me each and every day. I'm improving in every single way. It is already done. It will come to you when you are controlled and you move through at a pace and a time space that you are whole as you go for these goals. I'm not telling you to not have goals with this card, but I am telling you that the abundance and the financial gains and the prosperity and the material possessions will only come with structured discipline and a very genuine, solid work ethic.
Wow, that was awesome. Very
Wow.
cool. You're like, here it is. Here's the
I mean,
proof.
this is exactly what we talking with Mark about, what we are creating
Right.
with
Yeah.
this is source.
There's
This
no
is
rush.
Right.
yeah, we it's all about to put the correct system behind so we can enjoy the ride. That's
You know what this makes me think of? Okay, so you guys probably wouldn't resonate with this, but when I was a little girl, I was a tomboy. Mark knows I played college soccer. Like, I was not this, girly girl. I was very rough. And I had that jewelry box of that ballerina, which, by the way, when I took dance classes, they told me I wasn't allowed to take ballet because I wasn't graceful enough. So so I had this little ballerina like music box, jewelry box, and you would twist it.
Yep.
And they're showing me this right now, and it would pop up and there would be the ballerina. And I kind of feel like the year 7 is kind of like that. It's a slow year. It's a poised year. You're going to feel like you're constantly turning the dial, constantly moving. You're not going to see the results, but then all of a sudden, it's going to pop up. And it's that seed that you planted, and all of a sudden there'll be growth. So, you don't plant, what's that saying? You don't plant a seed of corn and then like get pissed off when it's not there in 2 seconds. You nurture it. It's about nurturing that soil. And the year 7 is about nurturing your soil, your soul, and being calm, cool, and collective in the process.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for that. I mean, I could give you 100 reasons why that was dead on target, but I think you could just tell by our smiles that we appreciate it. And I love you so much. This was such an amazing hour that we spent together. I feel blessed. So thank you so much for showing up and sharing your stories, and just everything that you brought to the table was so valuable. Like, so incredibly grateful.
Thank you.
I'm really grateful to meet you here, to all your channelings you did actually on the go.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I felt you so coherent to who you are. I see actually that beautiful soothing, that light with you now. I do. And I
Thank
really,
you.
I'm grateful, you know, and
Thank you.
so much love and happiness out of this. I cannot wait to put this out for
Yay.
people to
And
listen, you know.
I know. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for standing up and doing the work that you do. It's so valuable. It's so needed. And I know I have a lot to learn from you guys, and I'll be listening to your show. And I'm sure this will not be the last conversation we have or the last
No way.
podcast, I hope.
No way.
So I'm excited about the future. I'm excited that our community is growing. And I think as a collective, we were brought together. So thank you.
Definitely.